And let me tell you, this series is like watching a train crash into a dumpster fire, but the flames are fated mates and toxic relationships. Hey guys, Nina here, and welcome back to More Than Fiction. Have you ever disliked a book so much you couldn't put it down? Welcome to my world of hate reading, where the pages are painful, but the tea is scorching hot. So today we're diving into a topic that I think most readers can relate to. Books that kind of sucked, like really bad. I mean, let's be honest, we've all been there. You pick up a book, get halfway through it, and think to yourself, well, this is terrible. Why am I still reading it? But do you put it down? No, you don't. Because for some reason, you're too deep and now you have to finish it. Why do we do this to ourselves? I have no idea, but we're here to talk about it. Okay, so first up, let's talk about A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Now, don't get me wrong, A Court of Mist and Fury I actually liked. I thought it was a cute read, but Wings and Ruin? Ugh. I mean, let's talk about how insufferable Feyre was when she went undercover in Tamlin's court. She was supposed to bring down this resume, right? But she acted like the most cocky, arrogant prick ever. Like, oh, you don't trust me? Well, I'm actually High Lady of the Night Court and I'm better than all of y'all. I swear, she spent most of her time internally gloating about how clever she was instead of actually being clever. Girl, maybe stop smirking at every single person and focus on not getting caught. And, I get it. Revenge is sweet. But she was out there destroying people's lives like it was her own personal Netflix special. It was basically like, oops, I burned down your entire life. Oh well. I gotta go and tell Susanne about how smart I am. Like, she wasn't even subtle about it. And let's not talk about Susanne. The number of times this man repeated, "It is your choice, Feyre," while it actually not being her choice at all, made me wanna puke. But I kept reading it. Why? Because I wanted to know how all of this war nonsense would end. Spoiler alert, more endless war strategy and barely any resolution. But hey, I'm a sucker for pain. I mean, I've had debates with my previous co-host about this entire series on my podcast, so go check those videos out. I dive deep there, okay? So you can hear more. And next up, let's talk about Divergent by Veronica Roth. Oh, Divergent, how you tricked me. The first book, amazing. The faction system, genius. A cool dystopian Chicago, the Dauntless Initiation. I was hooked. Roth created such a fascinating world, and the whole idea of people being separated into factions by virtues was such a good idea. It was super fresh and exciting. Plus, who didn't love the action-packed Dauntless scenes? Jumping off trains, ziplining from skyscrapers. I wanted to join Dauntless so bad. And Triss's journey of self-discovery? Chef's kiss. But then we got Allegiant, and suddenly it's like, hey, remember the world you cared about? Well, it's not important anymore. Let's talk about genetics. What was that? They literally spent 2 books setting up the factions, the Dauntless trainings, the erudite conspiracies, and then boom, forget all about that, we're going to genetics purity territory. It was like someone flipped the switch from dystopian drama to weird sci-fi experiment overnight. And don't even get me started on Triss's big death scene. After all of that build-up, she just dies. Yeah, spoiler alert. For no real reason. It was literally like getting punched in the face by disappointment and having my heart ripped out all at once. But despite all of that, I did finish the series because I was still attached to the characters and I still wanted to understand what was gonna happen to them, how their journeys that I've spent so long, accompanying them on would end. Roth's world building really pulled me in, even when the plot took a total nosedive. But yeah, I did finish, and I'll never get those hours back, so, cheers to that. Why do I keep drinking in all of these episodes? I have a problem. Okay, let's dive into the Zodiac Academy, and if you haven't read any of these books yet, let me paint a picture. Imagine Harry Potter, but if everyone was terrible to each other, And instead of magic, we're just here for the drama. And I'm not talking about good drama, okay? No. This is the kind of high school drama where every other chapter there's someone staring you down, like they're plotting your demise. And then 2 pages later they're making out with you. It's like a fever dream where you can't tell if it's a romance, a revenge plot, or a really bad episode of the Real Housewives of Magical Realms. And now let me be clear, I'm only talking about the first book because that's the only one I've read so far. Maybe we'll get more character development and world building in later books. But for the first book in a series, I expected more, effort in setting the stage. And a disclaimer, I get that this is a bully romance and the characters are supposed to be awful to each other. That's fine. I'm all for the angst and the drama, okay? But even in a bully romance, I expect some level of good writing. Instead, we got a lot of repetitive dialogue and scenes that felt like they were just copy-pasted from previous chapters. Like, how many times do we need to read about someone snarling or glaring before it gets old? And the character depth? Let's just say it wasn't exactly a deep dive. A lot of the times it felt like the characters were just one-dimensional bullies. I wanted more development. I wanted something more to explain why these characters are as awful as they are. But instead we just got one mean-spirited confrontations after another with barely any insight into their motivations. I mean, they can't all be that terrible without a reason, right? And fine, let's say that these reasons will be explained to us in the next books. I still want some kind of constructive dialogue. For example, if the main character tells you that she doesn't understand why you're doing this and that, don't just ignore her and continue doing this and that, but at least give us like one sentence about it. Just one little tidbit, okay? So that I can feel like this is something worth reading. So that I can feel like I should continue, right? And the world building. I mean, this is a magical academy, so I expected a little bit more effort in explaining the universe. And for anyone who knows me, they know I'm not that big on world building. I'm actually more a character focused type of reader, if you know what I mean. So if the lack of world building really bugs me, then you know it must be bad. This was more like, here's your star-signed powers, now go be horrible to each other. Your parents were actually king and queen of this realm, but it doesn't matter. Go check out those hot guys who you'll repeat in the next few pages 10 million times how hot they are. Like we haven't remembered that from the previous page. And that's it. You're not gonna wonder about your parents, you're not gonna wonder about anything. Or you will wonder, but you're not actually gonna research it, you're not actually gonna do anything about it. You're just gonna stare at the abs of the bullies, who hate you and torture you all the time. But at least they look good, so... And that's it, just like a never-ending cycle. But guess what? I still read every page, so who am I to complain, right? And I'm gonna continue reading it because deep down I need to know if it gets better and if who of these jerks is gonna get the girl, if any one of them. But deep down I just know that they deserve that bloody detention for eternity, okay? And if you read the series, you know what I'm talking about. And then we have the Bonds That Tie series by J. Bree. And let me tell you, this series is like watching a train crash into a dumpster fire, but the flames are fated mates and toxic relationships. So the main character, Ollie, is supposed to have 5 fated mates. And yeah, you heard that right. 5, but it's basically a non-stop circus of possessive alpha males and one girl trying to juggle them all. At one point, one guy literally locks her in a cage, and instead of her going like, red flag much? She's like, oh, I feel a connection to him. I mean, what? And if there was even like some depth to the guy, if he told her, I don't know, about his traumatic past and it made her feel like, oh, but deep down he's actually good and I can change him or some bullshit like that. No, none of that. He's just there, a dick, and he doesn't explain it to her at all. And she's aware of it, but does it matter? No. It's like watching a reality show where every contestant is just terrible, but you keep tuning in because you want to know who wins the Worst Person of the Year award. And let's talk about the writing. I mean, the word repetitive doesn't even begin to describe it. By the 3rd time someone growled possessively and smirked like a bad boy, I was like, oh no, are we really doing this again? It was literally the same scenes over and over again with slight variations. And honestly, I realized pretty quickly that I'm not the harem type of girly, but did that stop me? Of course not. I kept reading because I thought maybe this time I'll get it. Maybe the characters will finally show more depth and I'll be converted. Spoiler alert! That didn't happen. Take Knox, for example, one of the main guys who intrigued me the most. He had like some serious trauma, so I thought maybe we're gonna get something deeper with him, something more emotional. But nope. By the end of it, he was just like the rest of them. Literally nothing special. And honestly, Knox was the only reason I kept going. I was like, alright, maybe this guy might be my redemption arc, but no such thing happened, sadly. By the time I finished, I was like, why am I still reading this? This might be the worst book series I have ever read. And out of all of these that I just described, I think this one wins. This is what happens when trash TV meets fantasy romance. You hate every second, but you have to know who wins. So yeah, why do we do this? Why do we read these books that drive us absolutely nuts? Is it hope? Is it the morbid curiosity to see if it can get any worse? Or maybe, just maybe, it's because deep down we love the drama. Whatever the reason, we've all been there, right? And maybe these books are theoretically bad, but since we finished them and since we kind of did get to the point where we were invested, does that mean that they're actually kind of good? Yeah, that's the irony, isn't it? But yeah, please let me know which books did you hate read to the very end. Drop your recommendations in the comments, hit me up on social media, and let's share in this collective pain together. Plus, I might actually be doing an individual episode dedicated to the Zodiac Academy, since I'm currently reading it and I am kind of hooked, so let me know if you would be interested in that. Anyways, thanks for tuning into my literary therapy session. If you liked this episode, or if you just liked laughing at my pain, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep reading, even the terrible dumpster fire horrible books. Bye!